Tina back in for another story. I wanted to make sure that I finished telling that I told this story. I was going to take a night off from YouTube because I'm having these eye problems again. That's why I'm wearing glasses. For people that know me, likely know why. I'm just having some like allergies and all this stuff. But I was laying here and I was just thinking about this poor little boy. This is a really grim story. This is a story about a little boy who was abused and failed by the system. And I was just, as I said, I was going to try to just leave it alone. But this, the more I sat here, I know I heard his story the other day, and I, it, it just hurts. It actually, it really does make you hurt. There's only one picture of this little boy. This little boy's name is Terrell Peterson. There's only one picture of him, and the reason why there's only one picture of him is because it was taken at the hospital. It was never taken from his family, or there are no other known pictures of Terrell Peterson. This was actually a big case. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about it, but Terrell Peterson was born March 1st of 1992, and he died on January 15th of 1980. I'm sorry, 1998. So what was sad about it, well, the whole story is bad, but when he was born to a mother who was a crackhead. Okay, so apparently she had been doing drugs while she was pregnant with him, and then she also once she had him, would, I think they said that they would lock him in the closet, and then they would collect the money for child support from the state, and they would, or whoever she was using with, would take that money and use that money for crack. Well, eventually CPS does get involved, Child Protective Services, and they take the child away from the mother. And so Terrell then lands into the hands of the state, to where he is then handed off to his grandmother. Well, it's like a grandmother of like a child that he's related to, but the other children, there's no blood relation. It's kind of a very weird story. So what happened was, so the mother would abuse Terrell, okay, and then also when finally, he had been, there had been so many times that there had been so many warnings about, what was going on with this child, and nothing was done. So eventually the grandparent took over, and it was the grandparent and the aunt. Okay, so the grandparent and the aunt take over the care of Terrell. So while they had Terrell, apparently her name, okay, the name of Terrell's, that he was, the person that he was placed with, is Farina Peterson, the grandmother of Terrell's half brother Tommy and half sister. Okay, so he had caseworkers assigned to him, and also he had his aunt that was living there with him as well. So once they, unfortunately, what happens to him, when they find out and they finally do get that picture, that one picture that I'm talking about that's of him, they do find out what this poor child had gone through. So he had been taken from a crackhead mom, then given to, what was supposed to be a blood relative, and someone that they thought they could take, that would take care of him, which ended up being even worse because they abused. I don't know which is worse. I think it's all bad. Okay, so there's nothing good about this at all. So once they get him, once after he dies, they find out more information. Okay, because he was in Child Protective Services, or CPS. He was in the system, been to court. Apparently, he had been assigned a caseworker, and the caseworker didn't show up for the court date, and nor did the child. So the judge just didn't do anything about it other than just dismiss the case. So this poor child, he continues to be abused. Okay. And so the family, the judge supposedly, now this is something that I've read. This is an article, but supposedly, or I don't know if this is alleged. I think the judge retired, so the judge didn't really, I don't think, ever have any disciplinary action towards her. But she dismissed the case, and then supposedly later there was some kind of fake report that was made that was saying that, Terrell was in court. So what they would do, the grandmother and the aunt, what they found was they found food instructions, and those food instructions were that um, he would only get oatmeal for breakfast, grits for lunch, and grits for dinner. He was when he died. He was born in March and died in January. He was only 29 pounds. You can see by these pictures, like I'm sorry, the picture, the one single picture of him, like it looks like you just see pain in his eyes. It's haunting. Like when you see this is just a little baby. Like I mean, 0 to 5 to 6, like they're so innocent, and all they did was just beat and torture. There were cigarette burns on him. They said that they found remnants of old wounds, remnants of being bound and tied and like placed into a closet. And it just seemed like, this poor baby, like they had had so many reports about, there had been so many calls and so many people trying to reach out to get this child help. And unfortunately, because of the controversial situation with the judge, I know there was a lawsuit involved here, so I don't want to get too technical. But so because of the negligence, the child remained where he was and was later taken to the emergency room in January of 1998 under cardiac arrest at a little over age 5, and that's where he died. And this poor baby, it feels, it's so frustrating because when you look at, as I said before, when you look at that picture, all you see is pain in his little baby eyes. He's just, imagine that, like he was born into abuse. Then he was supposed to be sent somewhere where he was going to be protected, and then he was abused more and just in like some heinous ways. I know the grandmother and the aunt are both in prison for life for these crimes. So this has been resolved. What I find interesting though is that the judge that all the controversy surrounds remained a judge and then retired later in 2010. I'm not going to mention that person's name. It just shows that there was a cover up of the investigation. It really makes you feel sad about the system for those children. I know I just recently saw a case where a father just beat the crap out of his child. It astounds me, like when we think about the story of Gabriel Hernandez and how they treated him, and it makes me wonder, like, why do these people have children or hate their children so much that they're willing to commit these vile acts against these little babies, like a baby, from 0 to age 6, like that's just pure innocence. That's just pure innocence. It's not only was it wrong of the family, but for the courts or for I'm sure they have their caseloads, and this is likely why, that they want to keep the child with a relative. I do understand those things, but to cover up any things that they've done or didn't do is atrocious. To me, it just seems atrocious. This poor little baby, he had only a little over 5 years on the planet. There was a lawyer that did sue for him and said that, in a way, he was glad that this child died because this child did nothing but suffer for his entire life. So from being in the womb of his mother and being probably a crack addicted child, then being abused by her, taken away from her, put into the system, had so many complaints and so many chances to save his life, and they didn't. What they did was they covered it up. And I heard this case recently, and it's compelling that this poor baby had to go through all of this type of torture or life. Like I just can't imagine. He didn't know anything else other than pain. That's all he knew. That's all he knew. And you can see it in the photo. And the sad thing is that there's only one photo. I mean, like, what child has only one photo of themselves? What about the photo like when they're born? Or like it was as if no one cared. The mother didn't care. I don't know where the mother is now, or if she cares, or what she thinks, or what the family thinks. The family is obviously in prison. The grandmother and the aunt that did the disgusting, heinous acts. I mean, who gets nylon and wraps it around a child, like, and bounds a child like that, and then just feeds the child only 3 times a day, not even making sure that he gets any protein or anything like that, just oatmeal and grits, and then locked away. So this is how this poor baby lived his life. And I couldn't go to sleep. I had to tell Terrell's story. I hope that if you've heard about this case, please leave some comments down below. I'd like to know what you think about it. I know that there's a lot of children that get lost in the system, like Gabriel Hernandez, that was a big case that was on Netflix. So I remember watching that, and that hurt your heart. This one hurts your heart as well. It's atrocious, and I really feel bad for this poor little baby. It's just hard. It's hard to even look at his picture, and I'll show you the picture again, because you can see when you look into his eyes, all you see is like pain, and like it's almost like, I don't know if he's there, or it's just hard to watch. So, anyways, this is for Terrell, and I hope that he's up there in heaven, resting in peace, and he's obviously no longer in pain. I know this is an old case, but I just couldn't leave it alone, because when I heard it, I just, it kind of just made me like die a little bit inside, just hearing about what this poor child went through. So, anyway, I hope that you will, like and subscribe, or if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. If you want to watch, that's fine too. But the most important thing here is Terrell Peterson, born March 1st, 1992, and died January 15th of 1998. And his cause of death says cardiac arrest, but likely, as I said, they found a lot of old wounds on him, cigarette burns, ligature marks, starvation, 29 pounds at a little over 5 years old. It's hard to listen to. But anyway, this is for you, Terrell Peterson. I hope you're resting in peace. And for anyone else that's watching this video, thank you for at least giving me a few minutes and listening to the story. And I hope that I will see you soon again in the next video. Okay, take care and have a good night or day. Bye bye.